My Black Friday watch purchase had in the end a bitter taste. Although I love the design of the PRX chronograph and the ad hoc experience of buying the watch was amazing, the weight wears kind of ruined my purchase joy, and that isn't fair. I was beyond happy with my purchase. I went home, I adjusted the bracelet, and after a couple of hours, guess what? I couldn't wear the watch on the wrist anymore. My previous experience with the PRX chronograph was pretty simple. When I've seen it online, I wasn't impressed at all. A friend of mine bought the blue chronograph. He offered me the watch for review. I skeptically took it. The bracelet, I remember, it was adjusted for his smaller wrist, so I thought that was the only problem with the comfort. I fell in love with the design. The blue version is so well contrasted and appealing with that electric blue tone. Saying, I remember now, this chrono on a rubber will be a killer watch, and I still believe that. But let's jump into the problem because we have a product issue. The PRX chronograph is wider and way taller than the 3 hands versions. Fact. Due to the case construction, the block of steel and the thicker white bracelet kind of ends up having a considerable weight. 180 grams, the weight of a Seiko Marine Master Professional. But actually the weight isn't the problem, the weight distribution is. The watch head only weighs 97 grams, more than my Seamaster No Time to Die on a bracelet. And if you keep the bracelet fixed on the wrist, it will cause discomfort. If you leave it a bit wider, the watch head will start to wobble on the wrist due to its construction and weight, meaning that the bracelet with a taper cannot sustain the watch head properly, and once you lift your arm vertically or simply wear it, although the bracelet is properly adjusted on the wrist, it will involuntarily move on the wrist and add pressure on the inferior part. Basically, this inner butterfly clasp will cause the discomfort and the repulsion to wear this watch. And this isn't fair. Just look at this after 2 hours of wearing this watch, how damaged and irritated the skin looks. My point is, if they cared about the user feedback or seek to improve the chronograph, this secondary version should have come into a rubber strap alternative just to facilitate the comfort part, because the watch head with the tapisserie dial is wow in my opinion. Of course, it's all about the cost. To expand the lifeline of the collection as they do with the Quartz and the Powermatic model, they basically added the correct waffle or the tapisserie dial, which is representative for the automatic version. The initial dial of the PRX chronograph had the PRX Quartz finishing, the vertical brushing. Barely now, with the addition of the waffle dial, the chronograph automatic is the correct one. So if they will launch a Quartz chronograph version, which I believe they will, I wonder if they will offer the vertical pattern to be representative for the Quartz one. But I equally think if they'll do so and release a $500 Quartz chronograph, the result will be more exciting, the watch will be way more thinner, comfortable and more affordable, putting the automatic version on a bad light. So it's a gamble, concluding that Tissot learned nothing from its previous model's experience. It's such a shame to create a beautiful watch with poor wearability. The question is how I would have solved this problem if I was to be their product designer. I would have capitalized on the Gente trend and improved the wearability and the adaptability of the watch. Just look at how thick and how much depth the movement has. How much space has this Valjoux 7753 has taken from the case. I personally would have used a mechanical movement for this version and keep the waffle pattern flow without a rotor or a date disc, implicitly remove the 10 o'clock date setting feature. And by doing so, I would have made the watch thinner, saving around 3mm. Exactly how Hanhart did with their 39mm 417 ES. Precisely tailored the functions and adapt the movement to obtain smaller, thinner cases. Ultimately, I would have offered an extra rubber strap or leather, exactly the way Frédéric Constant does with their High Life chronograph. Currently, I'm stuck with the watch. I don't want to sell it, I want to keep it, but still I will have to wait until, I don't know, Deluxe or Tissot will launch rubber or leather straps for it. Now, let's talk about positives, because after all, I bought this watch for a reason. Apparently, I have a thing with chronographs. The Black Bay Chrono basically introduced me for good in the world of chronographs. The steel and gold version basically made me appreciate this watch genre. I went 360 degrees with chronograph, some of them were reviewed, but some will come soon. But the point is, I wanted to complete my collection with an integrated bracelet concept, and Tissot with the PRX has the right alternative, especially on a Black Friday sale. More than that, for me it was time to experience other dial colors. I was looking for a chronograph with present in the Genta style, so this beautiful fumé olive dial seemed to be the right alternative. As context, what happened with the tapisserie dial, basically they had to mute the contrasted subdials because it was too much in my opinion to have so many levels of contrasts and patterns, and you'll notice that every accent and every contrast detail it's carefully muted. Firstly, the color tone is warm and pleasing. We have a fumé dial with a dark olive tone on the sides which gets warmer towards the center. This color gets amplified or muted depending on the lighting conditions, and honestly when I set the lights for the macro shots I was quite impressed by the dial quality. I like how the light interacts with the dial. The subdials have now a metallic outline accent, a concentric pattern on the markings area and a plain one in the center. Basically the theme of the contrast is based on the dark tone against the metallic accents, attributes which makes the watch a bit more elegant, the simple long chronograph contributing as well. The lume, although it's carefully fitted on each discrete marker or on the hands, it's not that present technically. The hands are a bit visible on the low lights conditions. I personally would have made the markers shorter without lume and placed the lume dots on the top of them just to have a bit of relevance during the night. Overall, I'm very pleased with the dial and how it is accented. I think this is one of the best good-looking chronograph dials in the €2,000 segment, and if they will release strap alternative for this watch, I would gladly recommend you this olive oil version. The case for me was also a selling point. I just love rectangular pushers. I think it works very well with the faceted case, and I still believe with the addition of a rubber without the end links, this will be a banger of a watch because it will decrease the perception of a big chunk of metal on the wrist once with the removal of the bracelet. As for the bracelet quality, although this is 3 times more expensive than the automatic version or 5 times more expensive than the quartz one, I'm afraid there isn't such a big difference in quality between them. And the watch head at 42mm, I think it offers the right presence and the color combo with the refinement of the dial, which in my opinion delivers even for the most pretentious people. So these are my thoughts in regard to the new PRX chronograph in olive. Beautiful, beautiful watch, but pretty poorly tailored to be worn. I have still zero regrets in purchasing this watch, but still I'll have to wait until someone releases an olive strap for this model. Until then, it will probably remain in the box. And in the end, I'm really curious to know if you had similar experiences as I did, or if you like the new olive PRX chrono. Please let me know in the comments below. And as usual, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much, thanks for watching, and until next time, be brave and stay safe.